Hi, my name is Elaine Asma, and I work at Gateway Technical College in Kenosha, Wisconsin. I am an International Education Fellow. I teach culture classes. I'm a faculty study abroad trainer and an ELL instructor. And my colleague is Hazel.
Hi everyone, good afternoon. My name is Hazel Scott. I'm the International Manager at New College Lanarkshire, which is a vocational further education college in central Scotland. It's a pleasure to be here today, and thanks to Elaine and Kendall Hunt Publishing for inviting me along.
So Hazel and I know each other because Hazel reached out to our college and wanted to create a partnership agreement. So we went to Scotland and we met her and signed the agreements. And since then we have planned 3 programs together, which have all been canceled by COVID. So we're still hoping to connect that way. And we are still collaborating together, even though we can't travel.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So the benefits of preparation for short-term travel. Short-term travel is a little bit different than what most university students do. So I'm in a 2-year college, and our students have jobs and families, and many times they're not able to take a whole semester or a year to travel. So they're going to have an opportunity to go for a short time, and their goals are a little bit different than a full-time student. And this could also be compared to something like a J term or a May term. So the preparation's a little different, and the outcomes are a little different. So the benefits would be academically, we want to keep the program on track. We allow students to dive deeper into their own topics, and it gives students the background to appreciate their experience. In our college, we spend a semester, they take a course, a culture course. It's 18 face-to-face hours where we can prepare them for travel. The other benefit of this time that we use to prepare is socially. We have a lot less behavioral issues. We honestly have very few. When being together for a semester before you travel, people get to know each other, they care for each other, we don't have the cliques, and usually our students stay friends afterwards. So these are some of the key topics that we address with our students, and I'm going to talk, Hazel and I are going to talk about these. So the first one is your American identity, culture, history, language, money, food, safety. And then we get to the practical things like transportation and getting along with each other and representing your school, making a professional development plan. Okay, so Hazel, how do you prepare your students for traveling?
Yeah, we cover more or less the same topics that you do. Unfortunately, we don't have a full semester to do that, but we do have 6 preparatory sessions where we meet with the students to go over these important topics. And as you say, it makes the whole experience go much smoother for the students, for the staff that are traveling. And so it just makes a better experience overall.
Yes, I agree. Okay, so the first thing that we look at when we get into our class is your American identity, or whatever identity you might have. So we first want to look at our own culture. So that's kind of like reflecting and seeing, do you have any prejudices, or how do you see yourself within our culture? So in the United States, we have differences between people in the North and the South, urban versus rural, liberal versus conservative, or maybe through a racial lens. So you want to be honest with yourself and say, okay, what is my viewpoint? How am I looking at the world? And then we also want to encourage people to be current and up to date on things that are happening in the United States, because you will get asked. and then we practice, how will you talk about your culture to others? So in my experience, the minute I get into a taxi from the airport, I'm being asked questions about American politics, or some of the questions I get immediately are, what do you think of your president? Does everyone carry a gun? Is everyone very religious, or are your cities violent? We hear about these shootings on the news. So we want our students to be aware that of the way that other people might view our country and know how to respond. So, Hazel, how do people react to you when you're traveling?
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, Elaine. One of our preparatory sessions is to talk about the culture of the country that they're going to, and in our case, it's mostly European countries for our students. However, we haven't actually focused on looking at our own Scottish culture, and I think that's really interesting because in my own experience, people do ask you when I've traveled abroad, both for work and I used to live in the States, people would ask things like, well, what about Scottish independence? Or what about the politics? What about the geography? Is it all bagpipes and castles? And so I think that it's definitely a good topic to discuss. And it's something that I'm going to, instigate in our college moving forward for our students.
Okay. Okay, and again, like you said, Hazel, we learn about the country that you'll visit. And another thing we look into is its relationship with the US. Does it have any history, or does it have anything you should know about? Do they have a good relationship with the United States, or maybe not so good? We have a group that goes to Costa Rica and Nicaragua. And, the students are young and they don't really know about Iran-Contra, all these past scandals, or how the United States might have been involved in Central America. And so it's kind of eye-opening sometimes for them, but it's good to know a full history, before you go. We also study etiquette and business customs. If we are to take students to maybe a business meeting, maybe they're going to go visit a company or an agency, and they're going to be sitting around a boardroom table, how should they act? So we might try this out and practice, and talk to them about business etiquette. And then we usually do a group project where you assign people like art, music, movies, sports, just pick all the different popular cultural topics, give one to each student. And then for the next class period, they'll just do a 5-minute report out and, talk about, so that everybody can learn at once, some of what's popular in the culture at the moment. Okay. Then we come to the topic of history and geography. We find that students aren't always so up to date on their geography, but so we want to definitely make sure that they know where they are in the world and what's around them. We assign students a research topic on important events. So we'll pick out the main events in the history of a country, and then again we do these mini reports. Students will research it, come back, and report out. Another thing that we do is we make a timeline. Like I usually do it in the front of the room. I just take the board all the way across the room, and everybody has a time frame, and then we will piece it together, as a class to create this great big timeline so that students get an overall view. Another interesting way to learn about this is there are so many good videos out there that teach about culture, history, for particular countries. So definitely incorporate the videos because they're interesting and visual. So do you have any ideas you want to share, Hazel?
We don't have the chance to do this as much, but I think that's a great experience for students to be able to take the time and do that. It's not something that we organise, but I don't know whether some of our lecturers in some of the curricular areas might focus on a little bit more on that for the students to do individual projects before they go to the host country.
And then another thing that we do is we give them a movie list and a reading list of maybe books. They could be fiction or nonfiction that maybe take place where we're going to be going, or are like maybe have maybe history related, but or not. But anyway, we do give them a reading list and a movie list. So students who are, very, I'm going blank. Anyway, the students who really want to get into it will go a little bit further with this. Okay. Language. Okay, of course, it depends on where you're going. If you're going to an English-speaking country, of course, that you wouldn't have to worry about this, but sometimes we do go to countries where English is not the main language. So in our courses, we require at least 6 hours of language study. We know that you can't be fluent, but we do try to help students with survival language, and we do practicing in class. So we learn the pleasantries, how to order food and drink, numbers, signs, and we practice. We set up, like for our French class, we bring in croissants and things and tea and coffee, and we make like a little restaurant, and then the students have to order in that language, and then we use the money just as a little practice so that they would have an idea of the back and forth. And we use resources like Duolingo Classroom. So Duolingo has a feature where you can create your own closed classroom with just your students, and the instructor can pick what units to assign the students. And then they send you a weekly report about what the students have been doing that week. So you can really see what's up. We also use online videos. And if we can, bring native speakers into the class to talk about the language and also the customs. Okay, so Hazel, have you had experience with taking students or having students visit a place with a different language?
Yes, absolutely. And we do the same as you. We do about 6 hours of language study as well. And like you said, it's just the very basics, ordering food and drink. And some of our students, they not only study abroad, but they do a work placement as well. So we sometimes go over, the basic language for the work environment that they're going to be in, and I know that the hosts and the people that they interact with, I think they really appreciate the students trying and talking. So I think it's a really positive thing for the students to do.
And we also use it as an assessment at the end of the program. Have we seen the student trying? Have we seen the student engaging while they're on their program? So we can also use that in an assessment way too. Okay, so then we talk about money. I actually bring real money into the classroom so that they can see it and feel it. And one thing that we do is before we go, we create a budget worksheet for realistic expenses, because it's one thing to say, oh, you're going to need $500, but we want to show them why. And so what we do on the board, I usually put each day of the program. Are you having breakfast, lunch, dinner? Do you need admission to a museum? What are the exact expenses for that particular day? And then we'll add them up every day and then add it up as a total so that they can see where their money is going to go. And one thing that we also try to do is have them set aside a certain amount, or kind of clip it, or mentally make sure that they have a certain amount set aside, because we found that students get really souvenir crazy at the beginning of a trip. They're very excited when they get there. They want to buy everything they see. And then towards the end of the trip, they have run out of money. So we try to really have them plan ahead for that. Okay. And so in the process of making this budget, the students look up restaurants in the area that we're going to go so they can see what kind of food is there, what kind of prices. We do a lot of role play with money and the numbers so that they understand. And we create this little guide on a clip. And this is like for emergency things. So I'll have like a conversion guide, for the money. I'll have emergency phone numbers, the addresses of where we're staying, anything that they might need. And then they would clip this to their bag. And then we also talk about tipping, because that's sometimes our students don't have the experience of maybe having been in a hotel or a taxi, or they don't really realize that like a tour operator would get a tip. So we do talk about that so that they're really prepared. Okay, and so food. So again, depending on the country that you're going to, there may be some very radically different customs around food. So we want to maybe show a video or, talk about that, or have a native speaker come in and talk about it. We want them to learn. Well, first of all, we want them to find new foods to try. We don't want people to stick to McDonald's, and I've had that have the resistance before. But if they can pick out some foods, and sometimes I make this little passport, and I might put new foods to try or whatever. I might pick some things out, but I want them to be able to ask for it in language. Also, if they have any allergies or food restrictions, they need to know how to say that and how to ask for that. So, we've had situations where people were gluten intolerant, and then they were trying to ask for that, for the bread, but it didn't work. We thought everybody was communicating, but unfortunately he became quite ill. But and then we also want to talk about if you are in a hotel, how can you eat cheaply? Because sometimes, like when we went to Switzerland, a hamburger was $28 for lunch. So the students can't keep that up. So, we teach them about going to a supermarket and getting some things to eat in your hotel, if you have a fridge in your hotel. So anyway, we talk about different situations around food. Okay, so this is a big topic for safety. So what we want to do is we want to research laws for that country before you go, just so that everybody understands. And we want to know, and we want them to know about their environment. What kind of neighborhood are they staying in? What are the customs? Are the bars open all night? Are people on the street? What is it? What's going on? And then we talk about personal safety and pickpockets, and being careful with your phone so you don't get it stolen, things like that. Not going to the ATM at 2 a.m. We talk about those kind of issues, and then we also talk about keeping in touch with people at home. Many times, our students' families are worried about them when they're on their trip, and we've had some students who just don't communicate with their home. So we do an activity where we write a blog entry every day. We set it up before we go, and it's on our international education website. So every day a student is selected to write about the day and then post pictures. And we like them to post a group picture. So a parent can look at this blog and say, there they are. So it's just a way to help alleviate some of that worry. Some of the things that are interesting about the laws before you go are, if a crime does occur, do you want to report it, or do you have to report it? And if you report it, does that mean you have to stay in the country till it's resolved or not? So we've had a robbery. We were in France, in Toulouse, and one of our students had their backpack stolen at the train station, and it had his passport, and he had about $20,000 worth of camera equipment, which was crazy. But he was doing a video project. Anyway, we did end up having to report it to the police so that he could get a police report for his insurance. But I know that in some countries, you can't leave the country if you have an open case. So think about that before you go. Also, there's laws that are kind of different. So for example, we have a group that will be going to Bali. And while we were researching it, we found out that you can't smoke in public in Bali. And you could either get a $5 fine or 3 months in jail. So it's quite a stretch there. But and then in France, it's illegal to wear baggy swimsuits to the beach or to a pool. They don't think that they're sanitary. So anyway, there's some funny little laws out there, but they're things to know, and it's good for the students to research that, so just so that they have a better feel. So Hazel, as far as safety, have you had any issues with students or?
Similar to what you had been describing, some robberies, handbags or purses being stolen, and luckily they've all been resolved quite easily, and before before the end of their mobility. Touch wood, nothing too severe, but it's definitely a key topic, health and safety, and so it's definitely worth spending that time, because it's on everyone's mind when a group goes away. Communication is key as well. Speaking to the group leaders, are they okay? Are they managing okay with the groups of students? Because it depends on the size of groups as well. Sometimes it can be, we might have a group of 30 or 40 students, which is much harder to keep track of in health and safety, as opposed to maybe a smaller group of 6 or so there's a lot to think about, and definitely everyone at the home college is wants to know, is everyone safe? And social media is great for doing that update. As you say, not all students are good about phoning back home, whereas we have instances where other students, they've never left Scotland before, and they go away for 2 weeks, but some of them become incredibly homesick, and we've had to bring them home. They've been so bad. So so it's a mixture of different things, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay. And so another thing that we do in our classes, we talk about this really happened. So I use my own experiences and experiences from other instructors, and we have like situations. And so we'll put people in a small group and give them a situation and talk about what would you do in this situation? How, and they're all real situations. So so one of the situations we had was in Peru. A group of students were on a hike. Well, I think the whole group was on a hike, and there was a pack of wild dogs, and one of the dogs bit a student. And so like, what would you do? How do you handle that? Right. Luckily they had a guide with them who had a first aid kit, but they did have to leave where they were and take the student to a hospital, but they all went as a group. And then another situation that happened to us in Paris was, the subways, the doors open and close so fast in Paris that when you have a bigger group, it's not always possible that everybody gets in the same car and, before the doors shut. So one of the things that was like, oh, well, what do? You're stuck at this station, they're going to another station, just kind of things to think about, like, it could be something as simple as that, that kind of could throw you off too. So that's kind of a fun situation, or a fun activity. Okay. We also talk about transportation and maps. So again, we have students who haven't traveled before. Some of them have never been out of the state, or on a plane or on a train, or we don't really have a lot of public transportation available to us here. So we talk about reading maps, and we talk about downloading your maps to your phones before you go, because standing on a corner with a piece of paper with a map is a real signal that you are a lost tourist, and you really don't want to draw attention to yourself. So it's better to be looking at a phone, than a map. How to read train, bus, and subway schedules. The idea of having 2 endpoints, and those are the directions that you go. That's kind of a new concept for a lot of our students. And then how to be safe on public transportation too. So Hazel, you have a little bit different situation because you guys have great public transportation. But
we do. Many of our students use public transportation all the time, so they are used to that. But again, it's just being sort of confident doing that in another country, and like you said, and I think I said earlier as well, a lot of our students might not have left Scotland or the UK, so so as much as they're used to public transport, the bigger idea of, of going to an airport, of getting on an airplane is all very different. So again, it's preparation is really good, just to ease them into these situations.
Yeah, so we give them a paper map right at the beginning of the class, and we want them to like kind of understand the main roads or the main places in a town, so that if they do get lost, maybe they can recognize, like the main drags. So we definitely give everybody a little map to start. Okay, and then we're coming to packing. So packing, that is a very stressful topic for the students because you have too many choices and you have very little space. So what we do is we give them a very specific packing list. And sometimes, the students are resistant, but I'll go to a webcam, maybe in the city center. There's a lot of webcams that you can watch, like city corners and things like that. And so I go there and show them, like, these are the people walking around on the street, just to give them an idea, because a street in Europe is going to look very different than a street in the United States, so then we show them the suitcase size. We try to keep it small. So we actually bring the suitcase to class and I bring all my things. And then I literally pack my suitcase in front of them. I show them how to roll, how to use vacuum bags, how to, organize their things and how to mix and match so they don't have to take so many things. I even teach them how to wash their clothes in the sink. So if they need to, but and then the other topic is, we call it stuff management. And that would be the day bag that you're walking around with, and what you should have in that bag and what should be on your body in case that bag gets stolen. So we, try to remind them to put, passport, credit cards, extra money on your body, but keep what you need for the day in your bag, so that you're not digging through everything. So it seems like a strange topic, but it really gets them flustered on the street. And then we also talk about going through TSA and customs, and how to pack your carry-on bag so that you can get through security pretty easily. And also, and not to fool around, and just to be prepared for the experience. There's some really nice videos out there that just are nice and easy and go through the whole process. So we watch those too. So, okay. Now, another topic is getting along with each other. This is important because many times this will be the first time students have traveled with anybody that's not their family. So they might have said, oh, I've traveled with a group, but it's a group of family. So these are strangers, well, a little bit strangers, but they're different personalities, and as you're traveling, there's jet lag, there's homesickness, there's hunger, there's all kinds of things going on with people that can make them crabby or hard to get along with. So we talk about the idea of a mood flow. That I made a little chart. So just the emotional ups and downs of a 2-week trip, because there are times when people are like super excited and then they get a little bit homesick, and then it just follows this flow of how I've noticed with people. So and just we talk about ways not to irritate others, how to be courteous with people. Social media, don't post pictures without asking somebody, and also the idea that a study abroad trip is supposed to be academic. And so we want students, when they write their blog or sometimes even with their social media, to remember that. And so that you're in a class, you're not on a vacation. Instead, people will post whatever they want to Instagram, but we want to remind our audience at home, which might be our board or the other faculty, that this is actually an academic trip, right? And then we get to the issue of borrowing money from each other. I have seen this happen a couple of times, where mostly towards the end of the trip, where people have run out of money, and this can be a sore point with students. Have you found any other issues that you might have amongst the group?
Just very similar to what you have said, Elaine. We touch base on the good, being a good traveller as well, since I think that is really important for them to recognise, you know, they're away together for 2 weeks, working together, studying together, socialising together. So there definitely are ups and downs, because not everybody's going to get on, but it's how they manage that. And, you know, especially in a world now where social media, everyone's posting, and to be mindful of what they are posting, and that they are representing the college and on an academic experience, and not a holiday. And definitely the same as you about borrowing money. We do the money management preparation sessions as well, but some students are going to be better than others. As you say, some students blow all in the first couple of days. So there's definitely a little bit of borrowing money goes on as well. So I can definitely relate.
And as far as social media and being on their phones, we do try to encourage people to unplug a little bit. So we don't want people to be constantly taking pictures and you know, being on social media. We want them to kind of like unplug, experience where you are. You know, you're only here for a little bit of time, soak it in, you know. So we do try to encourage that. And the picture that you see here is Chateau de Goudon in southern France. And they actually only have electricity in their kitchen. So the great and internet, it's the only place in the whole chateau. So what's nice is when we stay there, is like they're forced to be unplugged, and it's great. And they're usually, you know, at first they're resistant, but then afterwards they're like, yeah, this was a nice break, you know. So it's good to do that. Okay, and again, this is just, you know, common sense that they're representing their school. You maybe need to remind them on occasion that they are on an academic program. So before we go, we have students write out, you know, positive behaviors and expectations. What is going to get you kicked off this trip, just so that everybody's really clear of the expectations. Okay, and then another piece that we put into this is a professional development plan. So while students are away, we like for them to dive into their own major and create their own personal professional development plan that will help them maybe when they interview, or just to understand their major better. I did have a student, we did a renewable energy in Scotland before I knew you, Hazel. And we visited all kinds of really cool renewable energies that were still being experimented on. They weren't out yet. And so the students learned a lot of things that they would have never learned at home. And so I had a student who went in for an interview after his program, and he got the interview because he saw that program on his resume, and he told about his experiences, and he got the job. So it does help. So some of the workplace skills that you can gain on a study abroad trip are, you know, working closely with others in a group, completing coursework in another country, and then using critical thinking to solve problems in a new and unfamiliar environment. I took that from our curriculum. So those are our basic goals for study abroad. But then you want to personalize it. So some examples of a project a student might take would be to interview a professional in their field, find somebody where you're revisiting that you can talk to, create a video. We've had students make videos. We've had poster sessions. We had our nursing group. Everybody focused on a different health issue, and they just decorated a hallway. It was great. And then have students present to other classes in their major. And that's good for them too, because that gets them to use their public speaking skills. And it also helps recruit students for future programs too, because it gets more people aware and interested. Or they could write a blog article for a school website or something like that. We do that too. Okay. And we also do journaling as part of an assessment and also as an exercise in country. So students use a section of their journal to record their memories of the other people in the group. So it's not just what they do every day, but you want to remember the people you're with. And so we ask students to write about their best memory, and we keep it positive. And sometimes I've seen students, sign each other's books too. And it's a good keepsake for the students. Okay. And then we also do a daily journal. So we have different questions every day, and the students can reflect on, and they're prompts to think about their day as an experience rather than a list. Like, I went here, I did this. It's very boring if you just list all the places or the things that you did. But if you can get them to think about why it was interesting or what was surprising, that makes for a better journal, right? And so, and then our service learning programs require journaling as part of the curriculum. Hazel, do your students do this too?
Yes, they do. Our students have a log book that they have with them, which consists of a daily diary as well as sort of it prompts just very similar to reflect on their day, what went well, what didn't go so well, all those kind of things. So yeah, it's really insightful to read them afterwards, actually. and it's a great evaluation tool for us as well.
Oh, great. Yeah, thanks. Okay. Okay, so that brings us to the end. Kendall Hunt has kindly picked up my study abroad book that has all the information and the activities that we discussed today. I wrote this book because I couldn't find any material for a short-term program. Everything was for like a semester or for a year, and it didn't really fit with what we were doing. So this guide is it's a consumable, it's like a journal, it's a workbook, and it's meant to be like a 10 to 14 day program. And there we go. So thank you very much.
Really great, really exciting information. There's a nice conversation going on through the chat as well, so I encourage everybody to check that out. I do have a few questions for you.
Okay.
One person in the beginning slide, you mentioned a J term. Could you just describe what that is?
That would be at a university, a January term. And so that would be maybe if the college doesn't start till February, like their spring semester doesn't start till February, they might have a small 4-week program that the students can take, and it might be like an advanced course, or many times, I know like Carthage by our house, they do a lot of study abroads at that time. They do like a 3-week or a month away.
Beautiful. Do students receive credit hours for these 10 to 14 day trips? And
yes,
so,
absolutely. Yes, they do. And it's credit. It's usually about 3 credits. And they're taking a culture class, which is 1 credit, and then their study abroad experience can be up to 3 credits, and it goes on their transcript as an international course.
Beautiful. Are the 6 hours of language required before the study abroad program, or do they do it during their trip?
Before they go, and then we just kind of watch to see that they're using it. So.
One final question, and please keep them coming. What are some of the destinations your students have visited, and what in particular is your favorite?
Oh, Scotland, of course. Scotland's my favorite.
Correct answer.
No, we've been to many places in Germany, in Europe, Costa Rica, Nicaragua, Belize, I have a list here, Bali, Australia, Tanzania, Iceland, Ukraine, Vietnam, Singapore, Hong Kong, Slovenia, Croatia, Morocco, Denmark, Germany, France, Netherlands, Belgium, Spain, Switzerland, Czech Republic. So we've been doing this about 10 years. 10 or 12 years, and every year we have a competition. So the teachers create a proposal of where they want to go and why they should go there and what students it would appeal to. And it goes into like a contest. And so once a year, they select about 5 or 6 programs, and we try to scatter them around the world if we can, so that they're not grouped up. And so usually the programs don't repeat. Some of them do. We have some where we have creative partnerships like Scotland, Germany, Australia, Morocco. Those would go every year, but then we add like 5 new places every year that would be different.
This has been a wonderful experience. Thank you so much. We're getting questions about more information on your publication. So what I can do is we'll send a recording out and then a link to the book as well for anybody that's interested in that. Thanks for joining us today, everyone. As I mentioned, in the coming days, you'll receive access to the recording of this webinar. In addition, we'll supply you with Elaine and Hazel's email address if you have further questions. I encourage you to visit kendallhunt.com/events to learn about further webinars such as this in the future. I hope you have a wonderful semester. Elaine, Hazel, it's been great. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much. Thanks, everyone.